Our series really winds down today. That's pretty good with the clock. Anyway, it ends today. It's the last one in the series on the clock. And the idea here is that I don't know if you ever had a job where you punch a clock, right? The idea is we have a beginning and an ending point on our shift. And our shift is from really the time we come to faith in Jesus Christ until we die, all right? So we're on this shift. And we all want to accomplish something here. Right? We know we're on the clock. Sometimes we deny that to ourselves, but we really know down deep that we have a finite amount of time to get stuff done, to accomplish something that's worthwhile, right? And we know we're on the clock because death hits us right in the face sometimes, right? And so that's the focus here, and God giving us wisdom for this time in which you live, this time in which we're on the clock. All right, and today the theme is future certain. Future certain, dear Christian friends. I'm going to start today with a joke story type of thing. I never start with a joke story. And I'm terrible at telling jokes, but this has really happened to me, okay? It really happened to me, and when I get there, you'll know I'm trying to be funny, all right? If it doesn't work, you still got to laugh, all right? When I was in Denver, I had a funeral service this one time, and there was a lot of folks from the mortuary. It's like 5 guys, and they. I had all this stuff to do, and it's like they didn't want to do anything. They kind of leaned back. It was a long table in the hall, and they were they were like monkeys on here. All 5 of them are kind of sitting back here just talking, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm not getting it. I'm thinking, I wonder why they're not helping me. I mean, I don't care. I'll get this done. And I walked by the table for like the 4th time. And there was a guy there, and he says, I've had to work 13 days straight. And they're kind of talking together. And I'm walking, I'm saying, and I'm slowing down. I'm just curious, I had to work 13 days straight. And the guy says, the guy says, I wouldn't mind it so much, but there's no upward mobility in this job. That's it, okay? There's no upward mobility in this job. And you know what? You could tell. You could tell that none of these guys saw any hope for the future. There was no upward mobility. You like that, didn't you? There's somebody else. I sent that in to Reader's Digest. I thought I'd make $50 on it. Didn't make anything. They didn't even. So apparently you're in good company if you didn't think that was funny. But all these guys were doing nothing because they saw no hope for their future, right? Isn't that the way it works? If you see hope for the future, if you're certain that what you do is going to accomplish something, and your future is certain, it kind of empowers you to do stuff. I remember when I was in college, I was pre-med for about 3 years, and I went to school with some brilliant people in that major. I mean, guys that were pulling down straight A's and with really hard stuff. And I saw a lot of these guys get out of the major because they were certain that no matter what they did, the deck was stacked against them and they would never be allowed in med school. And we lost brilliant minds in the medicine field because of that. I'm telling you, that's the way it worked. What was going on here? They simply did not have any certainty about the future. And so it was kind of like pulling the rug out from under their feet and in a sense disempowering them to accomplish anything. It was really sad. Some great people. One of the best bosses I have here, I worked in the grocery store when I was in high school and college, so about 8 years, maybe 9 years, maybe. And the best boss I ever had, he would at regular intervals he'd get everybody together. He would say, okay, the guys that work the hardest, you guys are going to get promoted, and you guys are going to get the shifts you want. And then he carried it out. He did what he said. The future was just as he said it would be. What kind of guys do you think he had working for him? You think it worked? Think he empowered people to work hard? You bet it did. Now, this is my favorite one. A long time ago in a previous life, I lifted weights a little bit. And I did that at a place called Bill Pearl's gym. It's like my kids would say, that's an old school gym, Dad. And it was in Pasadena. And the first thing I noticed there was that when guys benched real heavy, okay, they got a spotter. All right? They didn't trust themselves. And what I also noticed is when they got a spotter, it wasn't necessarily their buddy. Because if their buddy wasn't focused and they didn't think their buddy was strong enough, that guy wasn't going to be their spotter. They got a guy who they knew was strong enough to lift the weight, right? And they knew was focused, and they wouldn't let that weight go across their neck. When you had a spotter like that, you were absolutely sure that this bar was going to go up. And all you had to focus on was pushing it. You didn't have to worry about whether you could get it up or not. You didn't have to worry about whether this thing was going to hurt you. If you had a spotter, you lifted a lot more weight because you weren't scared of anything. Isn't that right, Dom? Yeah. Yeah. When you have a good spotter, all you have to do is lift it. That's all you have to do. When you don't have a spotter, you just don't lift as much because you're worried about so many things. Jesus Christ is our spotter. We absolutely know for certain that bar will never come across our neck. We know our future, and it's absolutely certain. And because of that, it empowers us to live here and now, simply focusing to lift as much weight as we can in the joy of knowing that tomorrow's for sure. It's kind of like this. When I studied biology, there was a thing called the mitochondria in the cell. Anybody know that term, mitochondria? Thanks. Yeah. And I remember as a kid, I don't think I was very old. I learned it was the powerhouse of the cell. You guys remember that? Right? Mitochondria. Am I right? The nurses, right? The powerhouse of the cell, right? I believe that Jesus being our spotter, Jesus saying it is finished, it's done, it's taken care of, Jesus saying that your future is absolutely certain is what empowers us for living right now. Does that make sense? That's what we're going to look at today. So if you don't remember anything else, remember that guy benching and know that all you have to do is push because Jesus has got you spotted. He's got you covered. All right, we're going to review real quick where we've been. Oh, you got to go back to that one for me. Oh, I'm sorry, hon. Okay, here we go. So God gives us a certain future, and we have a sure and certain hope. Here we go. So we're going to just review real quick where we've been. We started with the idea of big dreams. I think that we're all born with big dreams. We're created in the image of God, and everybody wants to do great stuff. But we get disappointed and we get beaten down and we lose our dreams sometimes. And then we even kind of shelter our kids from having such big dreams because we don't want to see them hurt. And yet deep down we still have those big dreams to do big stuff, right? That's why people have bucket lists when they get older. They still want to do big stuff. We don't ever seem to quite lose that, but we're scared of it. But the problem is that lots of times our dreams are made up of stuff that's like sandcastles, here today and gone tomorrow. We had that story that we looked at that Jesus told of the guy that had this big crop, and he said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear down the barns and build bigger barns, and he did all that, and his dreams were fulfilled. He says, okay, I can just not work anywhere. I can kick back and just relax and be merry and enjoy life. And Jesus said, God called that guy a fool. Because he was rich towards sandcastles and he wasn't rich towards the things of God. His dreams were stuff of the here today and gone tomorrow. God made us to have big dreams, and he would give us the dreams he has. God would have all people to be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. Jesus stepping into our world and helping the hurting, the sick, and the dying. He would send us out with those dreams of loving others in his name and touching people throughout the world with the things of God. He would have us embrace those dreams in our life. And in those dreams, he would whisper to our hearts that nothing done in him is ever done in vain. And then we look at this idea about working hard, that all of our life is really made up of effort, of work, and we want that to count for something. And yet, so often we look at what somebody else does, and we're never content who somebody else is, and we're never content in who we are. Remember that? Like the guys at 6'3"? Why couldn't I have been 6'3"? Huh? Or the person the rocket scientist, and I always want to be a rocket scientist, but I couldn't pass calculus, right? How come that guy's able to be a rocket scientist and not me? And so we always live in this sense of discontent, and we don't understand the grace of God in our life, that He molded us together personally inside our moms. The Bible said He wove us together inside of our moms. He made us for a purpose. Us special. Each of us is different. And he gave us different abilities and gifts, and then different experiences in our lives through which He molded us. And even the bad stuff that happens to us in our lives, God never sends that bad stuff, but He uses it to mold us and to build great stuff within us. Like when we go through bad stuff, what that means is when somebody else is going through the same thing, I can relate to that person, and I can love them, and I can help them. You see, God uses all of that, and it's kind of fluid. He's always changing us, and He's always making us exactly what we need to be for the moment at hand to love people in His name. He's gifting us. And then He promises that as we use those gifts, He'll multiply their outcome. Like the guy that had 5 talents, he had 5 more. And so but He'll multiply that, and He'll bless that. And it's all done in this great relationship. He puts His arm around us and He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." The third week we looked at the long view, that the curtain's coming down on space and time, that we live in the end times. The next great episode in salvation history is Jesus blasting through the clouds in all of His glory to take those home that are His. There'll be a new heavens and a new earth. We'll be raised from the dead, and we'll have glorified bodies. And so with that picture, with that long view, it empowers us to live in a certain way in these relationships that we have with one another, with the time that we have, and with the abilities that we have, and with the money that we have. We live with an eye towards the long view. With the way we talk to our kids and what we share with our kids, we do that with an eye towards the long view. In our relationships as husband and wife, and mom and dad, and with our neighbors and friends, and in our world, we're empowered to have and live in those relationships with everything we have with the long view. And today, with this mitochondria, this powerhouse of our lives that God would give us, we focus on the future certainty that we can know and live in Jesus Christ. So these are the questions we're going to look at. What is our future? How sure can we be of this? And how does this empower us to live in timely wisdom? Those are the questions we're going to answer. We've already begun to answer them, but just to have them in front of our minds. We're going to use some text to look at that. We're going to layer these, and we're going to see God's revelation, His promise in our lives as He shows us we can be absolutely certain of our future. Okay, Beverly. All right, this first one is from 1 Peter. It says, in His, that's God the Father's great mercy, He has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. You know, more and more this is just jumping out at me from the text. In the West, we seem to dissect stuff. We kind of got this from the Greeks, right? They were always taking stuff apart. The only problem is when you dissect stuff, it dies. Right? That's what happens. And the greatest example I know is when you have a heart that's pumping, it looks so much different from when you have a heart that's cut up. And we think we can understand it by cutting it up. Life with Jesus Christ is not about a fill in the blank. It's about a relationship. It is a living relationship, a living life, a living hope in Him. It's kind of like with my wife. Before I knew my wife, I was dead to her and she was dead to me. Right? In fact, there was a number of weeks, honestly, when my brothers, he taught school with my wife, and he says, there's this girl you have to meet, right? He kept telling me, there's this girl you have to meet. What was he saying? Hey, there's this person you got to come alive to. And good things might happen if you come alive to this person. He was right. I hate to tell him that, but he was right. Jesus Christ is alive. And to know Him is to be born into that relationship. That's why the church and the church's people, everybody who believes in Jesus, we are called the bride of Christ. Right now, God's Spirit is touching your heart with this reality that God wants this relationship with you. That, in fact, we were created for this living relationship. It's what we've lost. It's why our lives are broken and empty, and we're always looking for something. God comes to us in Jesus Christ, and He offers us this living relationship in this one who took our brokenness and even our death on Himself, and He won on Easter morning. He lives. He's alive. And so he calls us into this living hope. And right now, God's Spirit is calling you again into that living hope through this living trust in him. Maybe for the first time, maybe to be renewed, maybe to be strengthened in that reality. Jesus Christ is alive, and he calls you into a living relationship. And through this relationship, he can say we're called into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you. That's so different from our lives, isn't it? Everything we touch perishes and spoils and fades away. And we're pouring all of our efforts, all of our time, all of our work, trying to preserve stuff that's going to perish and spoil and fade away. Isn't that right? But Jesus Christ gives us an inheritance that's different. One that will never perish and spoil and fade away, and it's kept in heaven for you. And it's absolutely certain. That word hope, in the English, we've kind of watered that word down. We I hope I win the lottery, right? Or I hope my horse comes in. Good luck, right? That type of thing. But really, in the Greek and to the rest of the world, hope is more like an absolute certainty. I hope the sun rises tomorrow. I know the sun's rising tomorrow, right? And so he calls us into this living relationship to have this living hope. That our future is absolutely certain in Jesus Christ. If you know that bar's going up, and it doesn't have to depend on you, it's by that great spotter who's going to do it by grace, how powerfully can you live this life in the love of Jesus Christ? Whew. Huh? Isn't that awesome stuff? Here's another text. Even though, let's go on. Let's go to the next one. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind. Read those last 4 words with me. Who have no hope. Death touches us all, huh? And there's another place in the Bible that says all of humanity, they labor under this fear of death. Because the idea there is that they think that all we have is this life. And so they keep trying to build sandcastles. They still keep trying to build stuff that's here today and gone tomorrow, stuff that'll go right through their fingers. Because they live in no hope. But you can live in hope because you know Jesus Christ. You see the difference? Future certain. You don't have to be enslaved to trying to build the sandcastles, thinking that death is the end, because you know death is not the end. You can tie your car to something else. And it doesn't depend on you. It's already done. He's on the cross. It is finished. It's taken care of. He's your spotter, man. So you can pour yourselves into loving each other and loving those around you and sharing the life that you have in Jesus Christ. You can do that in your marriages. You can do that with your children. You can do it with your grandchildren. You can do it with your neighbors. You can do it to the whole earth. And we can do it together. Why? He's got us covered, man. He's our spotter. Here's the next one. Just go to the next one for me. This is from Revelation. I love this text. I love the picture too. Thanks, Beverly. It says, John to the 7 churches in the province of Asia. Now, a lot of people read the book of Revelation and they say, oh, it's to these little congregations, these little churches in Asia Minor. Certainly to them, but Revelation also uses these numbers, like the number 7. And 7 is a prime number, and it means complete. So really what this is saying, all right? Notice it doesn't say to the churches in the province of Asia. It says to the 7 churches. God's trying to say it's for all of my people. It's for every single human being that has ever or will ever or does believe in Jesus Christ. It's to the whole ecclesia, the whole church. It's to everybody. Grace in Jesus Christ is undeserved love poured out upon you, and peace, the peace of shalom. The peace of body, soul, mind, and spirit. The peace of resting in Jesus Christ every day. The peace of resting in God. Knowing that your future is certain, right? Grace and peace to you. How does it all end? Here we go. The next one for me. How does it all end? Look, he's coming with the clouds. Future certain. And so shall it be. Amen. That's why Jesus can say these words. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Trust in God. Trust also in me. We have so many things that would trouble our hearts. So many sandcastles that we would build and pour ourselves into and afraid that they won't last. Jesus said these words on Maundy, Thursday, the next night he would die. But he knew that he would rise again. And he gave these words to his disciples. And he says, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. This living relationship of trust, right? Trust in God. Trust also me. And then he talked about future certain stuff. He said, in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again to be so that you may be with me. Future certain stuff. And then he says, I am the way and the truth and the life. I'm God in human flesh. You can trust me. You can trust me because I, as God in human flesh, took the nails in my hands for you. And in my strength rose again. I am the way and the truth and the life, future certain. That's the gift. It is the mitochondria, the powerhouse for living in these words in Jesus. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. You are my witnesses. Love God and love your neighbor with all your heart, soul, and mind. How can you do that with all your heart, soul, and mind? Because Jesus is your spotter, man. All you have to do is push. He's got you covered. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust will not destroy. Isn't that awesome? We don't have to store up treasures here and now because our future is certain. Use whatever gift you've been given to serve others because you're certain. Your future is absolutely certain. So, we can make God's dreams our dreams. We can get out of the boat and take the risk. Seeing everything we are and have as a gift from God, we can use all for the good of the kingdom. We can love one another in His name. We can trust God that nothing done in Him is ever done in vain. And we can, knowing the end from the beginning, pour ourselves into relationships as Jesus did with the 12 and with the 3. Everywhere you look, relationships with His time, with His effort, with His commitment, with His priorities, with His money. We can do the same thing because our future is certain. And one more, Beverly. Our future is certain because Jesus Christ is our spotter. He's got you covered. All you have to do is push. The outcome is already certain. Isn't that awesome stuff? Amen. Now may the peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in true faith to life never ending. Amen.